Hello, welcome back to the Prestige TV podcast feed. I'm Joanna Robinson.
I am Rob Mahoney.
We are sitting on the correct side of the table this week.
I didn't know there was one.
Our listeners did, and they noticed that we were on the wrong side last week. Here's the most important thing. It's episode 11 of The Pitt.
Yes.
It's 5 p.m. Howard made it through surgery.
Thank God.
Howard, if you didn't if the update from Dana passed you by, Howard made it through surgery. We don't know how post-op is going to go, but the operation I think was like the riskiest part of this whole thing, and he made it through. So I'm thrilled personally.
I would have loved to defy the reality of the show to just let's wheel him down for a victory lap.
Sure.
But I'll take just the declaration that he is doing fine.
Howard just gets pushed one loop around the floor and back into the elevators.
Is that not what you do after surgery?
Okay. Well, listen, we did go into the park,
We did.
So we left the premises slightly today.
What is the farthest geographically that we have been from the ED? I think it's probably Robby on the road.
Oh, Robby. Yeah, obviously Robby on the road.
But never further than that. Never farther than that.
Thank you. Mr. Green would have something to say, but maybe not.
As would your internal monologue.
Yeah. But Robby on the Brit, headed to work. We've been to the park before. Mm-hmm. We've been to the roof. I don't know which is further, the park or the roof.
It's a great question.
That's going to require some triangulation that I am incapable of because I don't do math. And then we've been to the floor of the ED that Whitaker was squatting in.
The abandoned floor.
Right. The haunted floor. 2 more hours left in the shift, according to many, many characters inside of this episode of television.
That's really how you know.
Couple things. We have a second episode this week. We're going to be covering Love Story because Rob promised.
I did.
And now we're going to have to do it.
I willed it so. That's how you make things happen, Joe. You say them on a podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, in theory, they could just cut it out.
Yeah, but Kai left it in.
I just try to perform in a way where it's uncuttable. It's so integral to the flow of the podcast, you couldn't possibly trim it.
Right. Can't cut around Rob's jewels. And one of the jewels that he dropped was that we will be covering Love Story, the last 2 episodes, basically.
Yes.
Penultimate and finale is the plan. So we'll be back at some point later this week with a Love Story check-in. Sounds great to me.
Better late than never. Is it a normal functional cadence for that show? No, but we are talking about it.
Here we are. It's the 90s. Anything else you want to say about the Prestige feed in general before we get into this episode?
I mean, for this show, you can always email us at prestigetv@spotify.com, drsidebangs@gmail.com. Come find us on social media at Prestige TV Pod, where the TV prescriptions, Joe, are starting to be doled out.
And listen, we're just slightly losing our minds with props, but giving out great TV advice at the same time.
It's true.
So we can be all things at once.
Find yourself a medical professional, real or fake, who can do both.
Exactly. In the email inbox, just a couple things. And in the comments that people leave on Spotify and YouTube and on various social media platforms. One thing that we, let's say, missed last week is that Dr. Park the Shark, who we really enjoyed a lot, was played by Lou Ferrigno Jr., son of the original TV Hulk, Lou Ferrigno. I did miss that entirely. And then one of our listeners said in the comments, you can really tell that Rob and Joe don't watch network television. Because I guess he's been on The Rookie, perhaps, 911, you know, and I'm just sort of I've not seen any of these shows that this guy showed up on. But he was great. I coincidentally described him as hulking.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, was that a joke? It wasn't. It was a coincidence, but here we are.
Do you regret or are you proud of your hulking word choice?
Deeply proud. Deeply proud.
I do love being introduced to an actor, though, only to find that there is an elaborate, deep stan culture around that actor based off of something like 911.
Right.
I mean, there's just there's a world out there for everybody. And I'm not in that one, but I'm happy to have him on the Pitt occasionally.
I was informed by someone when I told them that sort of we skipped this and they're like, oh, you didn't know about his stint on 911. I didn't fact check this, so I'm about to maybe spread some misinformation. But I believe his role on 911, he was dating a bisexual character who was maybe also interested in a woman. And so the people who really wanted a queer relationship on that show, he was the villain of that particular storyline, perhaps to a certain sect of the fandom. Anyway, great here on The Pitt. We hope he returns. I mean, I hope everyone keeps their limbs, but I would like to see him again. Our listener, Lisa, wrote in to note that the worst thing to eat in bed is a Nature Valley granola bar, and I really agree.
It's a great call.
I think she nailed it, honestly.
It was a great pick. I have to say Norman also emailed in and said a full-on crawfish boil, which, I mean, I just can't understand the circumstances that would lead to such a thing. I'm just saying, if your imagination is running wild,
Korean
there's a lot
barbecue also bad in bed. You know what I mean?
We can all make very bad choices to varying degrees. A Nature Valley, specifically Nature Valley granola bar, feels attainable and also disastrous.
The crumbliest of all crumbles.
And yet wonderful. Like, I do love one, but never in bed.
Amanda wrote in, we were sort of asking the medical professionals to weigh in on whether or not they thought that Langdon was being sort of like overly picky with Santos when she was just like rolling her eyes constantly. He was trying to quote unquote teach her, but was he sort of, we get a Langdon Santos follow up in this episode, which we can talk about. Mm-hmm. But our listener Amanda wrote in to say, Langdon is being nitpicky and exacting, but it's entirely by the book. The show may play it out differently, but if they're using reality, Santos isn't 100% right to be worried about retaliation because residencies can be middle school sometimes, and busy urban teaching hospitals provide a lot of autonomy starting at R2. So having someone questioning her every decision can be hard. But Langdon's return would have a ton of rules, and one of those would 100% be specifically about how he acts around Santos. And that includes do everything by the book. He will have to document every interaction and be prepared for every interaction to be put under a microscope. So you better believe he's being careful around her. I'm not sure that that's true. I mean, I think Amanda is being accurate to her lived experience. But in this case, when we find out inside of this episode 11, that only 3 people know that Langdon stole drugs from the ED. Who are those 3 people? They would be Robby,
for sure,
Santos. I would say 4 because I think Dana knows and I think Whittaker knows.
So what do we think Whittaker knows?
I think he knows specifically about the drugs, right? Because he was being really dicey about the whole like Louis situation.
Yeah. Well, I think the only wiggle room around that is there's clearly a widespread gossipy understanding that Langdon is coming back from, substance abuse, from rehab.
Yeah.
And so maybe Whittaker's reaction is just on a substance abuse note, although it's so specific and it's coming from the exact source. It would be a hell of a coincidence if that were the case. So I think Whittaker is on the list, whether he's being counted or not. Fair to say.
She might say, officially 3 people know, Robby, Dana, yours truly, but also my roommate knows. The only person who's really checked in with me on how I feel about this.
Well, and does Dana fully know?
Well, he talked to her in the kitchen last season.
Yeah.
Where he's like, Robby thinks I'm doing this. And she's like, are you? I think she knows.
Because if this is the list, doesn't Garcia also know?
Oh, yeah. Wow. I mean, Santos, the list is quite long.
I don't know. I don't know where the line ends and begins.
Dr. Al-Hashimi.
Clearly.
So, interesting. Okay. Last but not least, sort of in the let's catch up on last week, we got a lot of pushback, I would say, on our assessment of the Dr. Robby Samira interaction. And I kind of want to drill down on that a little bit because, we got a lot of listeners. I'm discarding sort of clips that were circulated on social media because that lacks full context. But some of our listeners were like, hey, I think the reason that Robby blew up at Samira was because he had his own panic attack last season, and he was sort of lashing out at himself as much as he was lashing out at her.
Yeah.
I agree. I thought we talked about that, but if we did not say that specifically, I don't disagree about that. I have a lot of empathy for people who suffer with depression and anxiety and all that sort of stuff like that. I have experienced that in my lifetime. I am happily medicated for that now in my life. But there have been times in my life where my experience of those things has caused me to behave shittily to other people. And I think you can have empathy for that kind of shitty behavior and also hold people accountable for that shitty behavior. And I think especially with Robby, because he's in such a position of authority, that I don't care. I do care, but I also don't care how anxious or self-hating he is. If he's using those emotions or channeling those emotions and lashing out at his subordinates, that's not acceptable. I can understand the source of it and not, condone the behavior. And that being said, last but not least, I will just say, I don't need to condone the behavior of every single character on this show.
I would prefer not to.
We love complicated characters. We love Carol on Pluribus. We love a complicated protagonist. So I don't need Robby to be an angel. We talk about all the time how we like that characters are often right and wrong inside of the same episode, and inside of this episode, certainly Robby has moments of grace and moments of, once again, shitty behavior. And so I like that about him. I don't need him to be perfect. I wouldn't want him to be perfect. But when he behaves inappropriately, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that you can both take the wide view of what kind of writing is good for the show, which is Robby behaving in this way is good. It's good dramatic tension.
Absolutely.
Especially if you take it from the lens of him taking things out on Mohan because of what he himself has experienced and what he hates about himself, the weakness he perceives in himself. Makes total sense. Great motivation for that character. That wasn't really the conversation we were having last week because we were talking about the interpersonal workplace connection of these two people.
Yeah.
And just because something can be explained doesn't mean you're not being a dick.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're not being an asshole in that moment. And most importantly, doesn't mean you shouldn't be accountable for your behavior just because it comes from a place that other people can make sense of.
And I think what's interesting about, we talked last week, again, we won't get into specifics of what we think is going on with Dr. Al-Hashimi because we're saving that for like sort of we were helped by the medical community, spoiler, medical diagnosis session, but like there's something going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
And we were questioning whether or not that she should be practicing medicine. You know what I mean? She's spacing out and we don't, the show has not told us why, but she's spacing out. And so is it responsible to be practicing high-level medicine if you're undergoing that? Is it responsible for Robby to be in charge of all of these people who are learning hard, like a hard profession under hard emotional circumstances? Is it responsible for him to be working there as well? Is his emotional turmoil, his reluctance to get psychological help with it, which his friend who is a psychiatrist was like, buddy, you need this. I think everyone knows, Dana knows, everybody knows that Robby needs some psychological help. Abbott knows that he needs some psychological help. The fact that Robby is potentially suicidal this season, like that is interesting to me and is great writing.
Yes.
Should you be in charge of, stressed out, vulnerable, like harried med students and residents, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know. It's a question I want to ask.
Can we just segue straight into the Robby Mohan stuff within this episode?
We can, yeah.
Because I do think part of this conversation is his whole argument to her about compartmentalization, right? You need within these walls to keep all of your personal stuff out, leave it out there. Yeah. I think there is truth to that, right? Like you have to leave parts of yourself outside. Whatever happened to you this morning, whatever you're looking forward to after work, like, we're humans. We carry that stuff with us all the time. But while you're focusing on a patient, you need to be focused on a patient. That part I can wrap my head around, I can understand. He is not someone who, as you're alluding to, Joe, has been very successful in doing that. I think all of us would fail over time. And especially with the level of baggage that these kinds of doctors are carrying, it's just not a fully realistic ask. It's something you can endeavor to do, but I don't think it's ever going to be something you're successful in doing.
I don't think it's something that he does. And
certainly not.
Oftentimes, and we get yet another McKay Ogilvy interaction side of this episode about empathy being an important part of the medical profession. Yeah. And so like your ability to empathize with people. McKay talked to Javadi last week about sort of like there are certain barriers you have to put up for your own emotional well-being. Mm-hmm. Dana has a conversation with Mel in the stairwell, a very like gentle conversation about like, hey, this sounds tough, but get up and go back to work. You know what I mean? Some tough love from Dana, but it's all coming from a different place and a different energy than Robby is able to offer.
Yes.
Samira inside of this situation. And like this, the Mohan, like Robby, it's Samira and it's Cassie as well, because McKay also gets it from Robby, I think, unfairly inside of this episode. And like that was true in season 1, that those two people specifically seemed to get on Robby's like bad side. And I don't think, I've been asking a question about like gender. I don't think it's just a gendered thing because, there's like, he has some real connection with Javadi inside of this episode. Yep. He is
with Mel,
with Santos, so I think it's, when you think about McKay and Mohan, and I think we've had listeners write in about this, like these are our most empathetic doctors, are doctors most inclined to just sort of like really give their all for a patient, right, to like with Mohan earlier this season, like do anything she can do to help her patient with diabetes, right? With Cassie, go across the street to the park to help this woman who will not come into the ED, be part of the street team, all this sort of stuff like that. And maybe that bleeding heart empathy from these particular doctors is something that Robby is afraid of, or something that Robby understands has caused him pain, his empathy. I haven't fully like drilled down on it, but I think the show definitely wants us to wonder why these two people, because like when he comes down hard on Samira here, he's coming down hard on her in this specific case for her lack of oversight of Ogilvy.
Yes.
Inside of the English teacher, Mr. Green case. But we were literally just talking about this last week, how Javadi and Ogilvy, same exact level. Javadi gets shit for the oversight in her case, and Whitaker is not given any shit, even though he is the doctor overseeing her in that situation. Samira comes up, takes responsibility, and gets shit. You know, so like you were asking, like, I think a reasonable question, like, well, does Whitaker get a pass because this show sort of treats the med students as if they're doctors? But here in this very episode, Samira is being held accountable for Ogilvy's actions.
Yes.
And so the fact that he's drilling down on Samira, and then for Cassie, for McKay, he's like, did you tell anyone? She did. She asked Samira to cover her patients for her. She didn't tell Robby. She didn't tell Dana. She was also across the street. Like, she was, I just felt like him coming down on her for that was, and the way he told her that Roxy died was almost like, it was not kind. When we've watched McKay give so much to this Roxy case this season.
That hurt.
You know, like that was just really tough. So like it's these two doctors, very specifically, I think, that have a real talent for getting on Robby's nerves for some reason, you know?
Yeah, because it really isn't about what they've done right or wrong, to your larger point. Like, I do think McKay's choice is kind of an impossible one. Like, she has been on Kiki's case for months, she says, trying to get her to come in, trying to get her to receive treatment, trying to just get her to accept help. She finally comes in at what turns out to be like the worst possible time because it ends up being when Roxy passes away. And McKay has been there for that whole family every step of the process. I'm sure would love to have been there in that moment. And because that is something that is like an extracurricular endeavor on company time, I do get some of Robby's frustration of like you just checked out to do this street team stuff while you're on, like in my ED on our clock. Everything has already been crazy today. Is this really the best use of our time? At the same time, like if Duke had been across the street,
exactly.
Like I think all of these doctors who care, and I think it's very funny to me that Ogilvy comes back and is like not receptive to the pitch about the street team. Like not everyone is a Whitaker.
Sure, I'll think about that. So what I wrote in my notes, Kiki in the Park with Necrosis, an excellent Beatles B-side, perhaps, if you ever wanted to write the lyrics for that. But like,
please don't. It's among the most disgusting things we've seen on the Pit, unfortunately.
This is part of the increasing, like, you know, defrosting of Ogilvy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he does not want to be on street team. He is repulsed and uncouth a bit when it comes to treating Kiki. Not as uncouth as we've ever seen him, but like fairly uncouth. But him running across the street and saying like, I see organ donation in my future, like, you know, and then his absolute shell-shocked response to Mr. Green's coding and him starting the episode bragging like, I want to do another intubation, then it's going to be a record. And then Robby inside of this trauma situation says, do you want to do it? And Ogilvy just freezes. And then it's Javadi who does it because he's just like, he gave that guy a book. He became emotionally attached to him. And now he's up with Dr. Shamsi like in surgery, but not in a Gunner kind of way, but in a I'm genuinely concerned about this patient kind of way, and I messed up.
That's all we needed. You know, I think the humbling was an important piece of that, and we've seen that in a couple cases throughout the season. But here, treating a patient as something more than a case study.
Right.
As something more than a chance to intubate.
Yeah.
All it took is like almost killing your fake surrogate father. And yeah, like I'm starting to come around on Ogilvy. I think it helps that he's like very funny in this episode. Like him going up to Samira about the heart attack situation. Like honestly, I did find very funny. Yeah. And just having him be in places where, yes, he's able to show some empathy, demonstrate some empathy. And he's on an interesting side counterpoint from Javadi on this. Like Javadi is almost like too affected by what's going on with Roxy because of her own relationship with her mom. And it's hitting her very hard and what's going on with Roxy's kids. The fact that the other precocious med student, who's also fucking up on cases, is kind of doing it for the opposite reason of like, he's such a know-it-all. He just assumed that the easiest explanation for what was going on with Mr. Green must be the thing because he knows his stuff. He's so plugged in. He's so like ready with every answer and comes to realize like, these are full people walking in and anything could be wrong with them. And it doesn't matter what their medical history is. It doesn't matter what the easiest explanation is. You have to look at them as complete people.
it's different, but also is it same because these are his daddy issues and Victoria's dealing with her mommy issues. And Robby would say that has no place in the ED, but
Certainly
guess
don't.
what? We're all navigating
Not in my
it.
ED.
I do have so much empathy for people going through mental health crises, which Robby seemingly is. It's harder for me. I mean, this is just a day in the life of Robby. This is another bad, no good, very bad day for Dr. Rabinovich here.
Yes.
But like, I did not have a lot of time or space for Langdon last season.
How are you feeling about him now?
Great. We can talk about it. We'll talk about the Santos thing.
Yeah.
But like,
I have to say, I'm not.
yeah, I know. We're on different
I'm
pages here, but Langdon's trying to get help.
Yes.
And as someone who is actively trying to get help, he does do like a little bit of a pity party that I was not like, did not want to be invited to at the end of this episode.
Sure.
But like, he's someone who has had major issues and now he's trying to get better.
Yeah.
And I have like just a lot of space for that kind of story. There's a section of this episode where he is majorly white knighting, right? Like he is helping with Becca and Mel. He like comes outside to help Mel. We see him running inside with a child in his arms. You know what I mean? Like there are these moments of just sort of like, Langdon, what a guy inside of this episode, right? And then there's the Santos interaction. And so I again, we love a character who's both right and wrong inside of an episode. I know that like all season you haven't had as much space for Langdon as I have, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. Tell me what rubbed you the wrong way the most about this. I'm assuming the Santos part.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the Santos part. And I agree with you. Langdon has had some incredible moments all season, even within this episode. He's been dishing out his apologies, and you can parse those apologies and you may feel different ways about them. I think the idea that he comes up to her, and again, this is one of the people who knows the truth.
Right.
He's treating her almost like she doesn't. Like he's apologizing for being an asshole, which he was on her first day. He was an asshole in a way that was like, would have torpedoed her entire career.
Yeah.
Would have had massive professional repercussions.
It was a shitty apology.
He doesn't own any of that. He's just like, I was mean to you. And if I could go back and do it differently, I would do it differently. And I just found it like, for the history of these characters, which granted was only one day and a long time ago, woefully insufficient for what he ultimately tried to do to Santos on that day.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. And that I think her response is really good.
Yep.
Her turning around and just being like, you know what? No. Like, you don't get to pretend like that's a real apology. Yeah, I'm not going to excuse it. I kind of like this though.
I
that
do
he's
too.
like trying and he's failing, and in some ways, you know, it's easy with Mel because Mel adores him.
Yeah.
She apparently is on the short list of people who don't know the truth about why he was gone. He does a great job with the heat stroke kid. You know, like he's a talented doctor.
Definitely.
Like all of these things are true. And then when it comes to the amends part, specifically with Santos and Robby, he is not nailing it. And I think that is, again, great writing. You know?
I think it's wonderful writing.
Yeah.
I think setting up this dynamic in this way, which, as you mentioned in the email section, Langdon is her superior and can correct her on all of these like medical procedures. But she also knows what happened and in a way holds that over him in a way that kind of like completely messes with their power dynamic. And I think part of what has rubbed me the wrong way, even though he says like, you don't have to accept my apology, but I want to give it. The way he has carried himself throughout this season is as if he is like entitled to acceptance.
I don't agree because I think for a lot of the season, he was sort of like ducking around with his tail between his legs, you know?
But then here he comes up and it's like, as soon as he gets the slightest resistance to his apology, it's, but it was so hard for me. My wife almost left me. Like I have all these, and I think Santos is absolutely right. Like this is what happens when you mess up. And I just don't hear a lot. I hear a lot of taking accountability in going to rehab for the substance abuse issues. I don't hear a lot of accountability for the workplace shitstorm that he started to create and has not really been held responsible for in any way.
I agree with you. And I think that like, but I think I just agree with our listeners that are, and I think you raised this point too, where it's like, this all should have been handled before he was allowed back in the ED.
No doubt.
Which is Robby's note for Dana. And
Yeah.
Dana's like, listen, we were short-staffed. So like, all of this should have been handled. As our listener Amanda pointed out, there should be like, HR should be involved in any interaction that he has with Santos going forward. in fact, he should be on the night, like they should not be on the same shift together. You know, like if he's to come back to the ED.
Yeah.
So I guess this is my long-term pitch for Pitt after hours, Pitt night shift, add Dr. Langdon. Is that too much power to have
Pitt HR, the web series?
Dr. Ellis, Dr. Shen, Dr. Abbott, Dr. Langdon on
it's not a bad idea.
And Mateo on the night shift?
I do think this is one of the areas that's complicated by not everyone knowing, right? It's like if this were all out in the open and somehow Langdon still kept his job, I think a lot of those measures would be taken. But how many people, forget the fact that Langdon stole drugs, even know the exact history he has with Santos, other than like they got into it in front of other people?
I'll be interested to see how Dr. Al-Hashimi handles knowing the full information.
Right.
She's been offering him a lot of grace, but she didn't have all the information. So we'll see what happens. Anything else you want to say about Heat Stroke Kid? I thought it was really interesting, a really interesting Joy moment, that Joy was sort of like in a role we usually actually see Santos in, where she was just like immediately very suspicious and judgmental of this mom. Robby has his like, hey man, you don't know how trauma is going to manifest. It might manifest like me being near tears all the time inside of my own ED. But like, you don't know how trauma is going to manifest. And then this woman tries to walk into traffic and Dr. Al-Hashimi sort of stops her. What do you want to say about this?
I mean, it's a horrifying plot line in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I, for one, appreciate the quandary that Langdon raises at the end of the day, which is what happens if her son recovers before she has been cleared to leave what could be an involuntary psych hold.
Right.
That's just like a quagmire I love the Pitt digging into. I also think we as TV viewers are conditioned, like Joy, to look at the people who walk in who are acting a particular way and being like, is there something more here? Like, what's the wrinkle to this story? And I say this with all due respect. They cast the exact kind of woman you would cast if this were like a weirder, more horrible, even more nefarious plotline than it is.
Tell me what about her rings that way to you.
Yeah, Catherine Dillon Ortiz, who I think does a phenomenal job in this episode. She just has kind of a haunted look to her.
Okay.
In a way that it's like, if there was going to be a mom who intentionally or kind of intentionally hurt her kid and came into the pit, like a Munchausen by proxy plotline or something,
Sure.
I think you would also cast her for it.
Okay.
I don't know how to parse that other than the pit is clearly hand-holding us into some degree of skepticism. Like she's behaving oddly in a way that I think makes your alarms want to go off, even though it is seemingly clear by this episode that it's more just like the trauma associated with the guilt of her circumstances.
I don't know about the casting, though. I will take that into consideration. Are you like a murder podcast person, or do you enjoy like true crime? All right.
Absolutely.
I didn't know
not.
if you had like your profile set up of like, you know, different kinds of
I think it's just like
murderers.
I mean, not to profile too deliberately, but like
you love to put people in boxes. This is why you love the Pit, because the Pit is all about just boxing people. No, they don't.
I just see like a wispy, far away, kind of maybe whitish, pale woman. And I'm like, okay, there's like something happening here. And I don't know what it is exactly. I'm trying to figure it out, and Joy's trying to figure it out.
Were you on Joy's side when she grabbed Perla's wrist to take the kid's heart rate? And Perla was so upset about it.
Yeah, Perla was not on her side.
She was like, get the fuck off me. It was really good. I really liked it.
That part of it was fascinating, though, in terms of the treatment of a boy like Micah, who's the one who comes in with heat stroke. Like this idea of the Broslow tape, where you don't have the weight necessarily. It's like, I think that's just one of those little details that I'm sure if you work in a hospital, you're like, yeah, obviously. And for dummies like us, we're like, oh, this is the most interesting thing I've ever heard.
Did you have a funniest moment of this episode?
I feel like there were low-key a lot of very funny moments in this episode. I did love the absolute disbelief from our guy Roberto when Whitaker has to explain that he's basically never seen a baseball game anymore or in his life, but certainly isn't watching it now.
I know who Roberto Clemente is.
I mean,
so like,
even if you're not from Pittsburgh.
I mean, come on.
You're sports adjacent enough to have osmosed that.
Joanna Robinson knows who Roberto Clemente is. Mike is also related to our guy Roberto, who refuses any pain meds because he does not want to lose this game ball that he caught. When he screams, when they like reduce the fraction, he like hollers, and Donnie does not flinch. I cackled. It was so good to me. Is that just like his time in the ED, or like, is this a callback to him being like, I can't hear babies crying anymore?
I didn't even put that together, Joe. That's a great call.
New dad Donnie.
I just assumed he's we get so many moments in this episode where he's just being a pro.
Yeah.
And Emma's like, what is it that Donnie's doing? Should I also be putting on gloves? Like, I just assumed it was that, but it might be the baby crying.
And Anything else you want to say about? Well, so while we're in the Roberto section,
Sure.
like Santos and Whittaker are doing this together, and then they rope Mel into it, and Mel has to like put the clipboard on the ground to get these like squabbling, kids to fill out the paperwork. But Whittaker checking in on Santos,
Yeah.
and like saying, "I have to tell you something," right? I'm guessing about like house sitting for Robby.
I would assume.
Earlier in the episode, earlier in the episode, Robby is asking Mel, "Do you have anyone to talk to?" And while she's in the middle of saying, "No, actually, I don't," he cuts her off so that he can yell at McKay.
I love that, both because it is the exact opposite of the tact you took with Samira Mohan for no reason of like, can you express a single bit of regard before you move on? But then he also moves on mid-sentence anyway.
Right.
So Robbie's just, he's in a place.
He's having a day. It's a lot. For Whittaker to like see her, no more context about how she's feeling than like other people do or care to have, like Robby has talked to her a little bit, but Robbie's been talking to her about Whittaker more than anything else. Right. Yeah. And like, Dana hasn't really been checking it. Dana gives her some like, "Oh, where's the sass? Where's the snapback from you? Like, is this Santos?" But Whittaker's like, are you okay? Like, how's it going? What's going on? And I love that relationship.
Yeah.
And how we see, and then like, it makes me reassess. I can't remember if we talked about this at the time, but it really makes me reassess all of Whittaker's edginess around Langdon, because like, yes, he knows, but also he has more reason to care.
Yes.
Because he cares about how Trinity is doing, inside of his return.
Completely.
So, yeah.
He seems like just like a naturally pretty caring person, perhaps to his detriment, perhaps to the point of being pulled in all these different directions at once. We'll see.
Farm benefits.
Yeah. I'm sure it's coming back to him in some way. And I love that you mapped that out with Robby earlier in terms of him seeing something in Samira that has really cost him in his career potentially in terms of that empathy. And you have to wonder with Whittaker too, someone who he has taken under his wing, who he thinks very highly of, who he has tried to ward off of, not just like having boundaries with, farmhouse Amy, but also just like, I think you're caring for people all day. And at some point you have to care for yourself. Like it can't be all from here to the street team to Amy and back. Like at some point it has to be Whittaker time. And I don't know that our guy's getting that much of it.
He seems to enjoy being on the farm.
He does.
I don't know. Let's talk about Mel King. Tough day for Mel King. Do you feel like the entire reason the deposition storyline exists is to put Mel on edge enough that it would be believable that she would sort of like lose her shit on Becca in this way?
I kind of do.
If that's it, if that's the reason why we heard all day that she is a deposition and she's worried about it, I don't know that the payoff is worth the juice is worth the squeeze there. But like, when she lost her shit on, because actually I think I would believe this anyway, because like when she's like, Becca was lying to me, her concern about consent, her concern about, and then her checking in on Becca and she's being like, "Can I have Adam's parents' phone numbers?" And Becca's like, "Why?" And then Becca just like leaves.
Yeah.
And then for Mel to express her fear to Dana, where she's just like, "I've watched Elf 1 gazillion times. I've poured everything into my care for this person, expecting that it would be the two of us. And this would be my life outside of work, would be my life with my sister."
Right.
And she's got a boyfriend. And maybe that's the future that she envisions for herself. And then what is my future if she completely moves on from me? I thought that was really well done. It is something that like, it's not often done inside of a context like this. You usually see it with like a parent who has poured everything into a kid, and when that kid wants to separate, as naturally kids want to do often in adolescence or whatever from their parents, they're like, "Well, what do you mean? I've just like poured so much into you. What do you mean?" To put it inside of this different dynamic is, I thought, really interesting, and a really interesting payoff from the Becca Mel relationship in season 1.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where it just seemed like all elf and cupcakes all the time.
Yeah.
And it can't be.
Pasta and pizza.
Pasta and pizza, of course. I'm very interested in that idea of how do you care for someone to the degree that Mel cares for and about Becca without treating them like your child.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird thing to have to do over a long enough term, because the wires get all crossed up. Like people, when they are dependent on you, even in a, like an assisted communal living degree, it just kind of like hardwires into your brain that you need to have certain responsibilities for them. And you start infantilizing them, conscious or not, by like asking for their boyfriend's parents' phone number and even like hounding the facility for it. I completely get how Mel wound up in this place. And I agree with you that I don't think we need the deposition to do it.
Right.
Couldn't this day have just been stressful enough? Like, so much of this episode to me is we are reaching the point in the shift where everyone is, it's 5 p.m. There's only one more hour left after this one, as many people will tell you. Everyone is running off fumes. Nobody at this point in the day has the like emotional capacity to metabolize the things that are happening.
Just Donnie, and I think
it's really just Donnie.
Honestly because I think he remembered to eat all day.
He's the only one who's been regularly hydrating and eating. Him, Perla, maybe Dana, the only ones who are surviving to this point.
No Princess in this episode. Where do you think Princess is gone? Is she in radiology?
I'm terrified, but maybe she is. She's picking up a couple extra running shifts here and there. But everyone else is collapsing. Yeah. And Mel is among them, where she's just like losing her mind at the idea that her sister would be able to make a decision when it's clear that she's capable of making decisions.
And for Langdon to gentle parent Mel in a certain way and just be like, you know, are you her legal guardian? And she's like, no, I have durable power of attorney and we're doing this thing.
He really walked her into that one.
He took her gently by the hand and walked her into it. But also like him coming in when Mel is like yelling at Becca and being like, Dr. King, step outside. You know, like, I'm in the Langdon tank. It's fine.
Joe, do you think there is any movie that you have seen 164 times?
Wow, that's a great question. 164?
I mean, per Mel.
Is there a movie you've seen 164 times?
The only one I can think of is I had a period in my high school life where every night to go to sleep, I would put on A Few Good Men. And so it's like, inevitably, I probably have. It depends on what you consider to be a full watch, you know?
Can we dig into this
Yeah,
a
let's
bit?
unpack it.
What was it about A Few Good Men that really just sort of like gave you that sense of security?
I think it's like...
Is it because you needed someone on that wall?
I didn't need someone on that wall. I needed to feel it.
You wanted someone on that wall? You needed them on that wall?
I never put it together in quite that way, but this is what me and Robby have in common. We need to really interrogate our shit.
Like, like genuinely, what do you think it is about it? Well, you're a Sorkin guy.
I'm a Sorkin guy. Yeah. And so I think there is a rhythmic patter that is just very comforting to me. I think there's also something about like that specific style of 90s filmmaking where it's like the kind of like orchestral and instrumental scores that come in, the exact way that it's shot. Like it is very comfort viewing, and maybe that's just the era we came from, but it is for me. Yeah,
I know you like to go to sleep to a movie. You like to wake up to a DVD menu sort of thing.
Sure.
In the era of DVDs. Were you ever like a TV show to fall asleep to, or was it always movies?
Oh, Buffy for a long time.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, have I spent the equivalent amount of 146 viewings of Elf watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Yes.
But those are many episodes.
Obviously. I don't even know what would get close. Like maybe certain like musicals when I was a kid that my sister and I just watched over and over and over again.
I mean, that's the vibe. That's the Mel and Becca vibe.
It's true. It's true. While we're talking about Buffy, should we talk about our guy Duke, played by Jeff Kober?
We should.
By the way, I just think he looks great in this episode.
He does.
Like he's not doing great internally.
No.
But like the silver curls and the like
fantastic,
almost like piratical like mustache. I'm really into it. We get what we expected though, which was like bad news for Duke.
Truly shocking.
And it's going to take a couple hours. And so Robby's like, yeah, guess who's staying beyond his shift? Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Guess who's staying for his shift? And Dr. Al-Hashimi sort of like asks like, hey, does Dr. Robby usually leave on time? And Dana's like, sometimes. And I feel like the answer is never.
Almost never.
But, you know.
I'm glad though that we had some indication of what that might be. This has been like the meta-textual dance all season is how does a 12-hour shift become a 15-hour season? If there's not like a mass casualty event where everyone is working triple overtime.
Like 3 people were injured at the water park, not everyone at the water park. Yeah, exactly.
And I frankly love the idea within this episode that Dana lays out. This has been a crazy day. Mm-hmm. The cyber attack has thrown a lot of things for a loop, but it's not that crazy.
Right.
Like if Robby needed to leave, he could leave. Granted, that was before everything flares up with Duke, and he has this like personal attachment and investment in seeing it through, which makes complete sense. But so much of this season is going to be about like where can Robby let go, and what is he what is he willing to let go of, and that's clearly a struggle for him.
I think it'll be interesting to watch like who goes home when. You know what I mean? Like Santos, we're set up for her to be there very late because she has all of her like charts to take care of. But like, who's the first person to go home? Do you think?
Who's the first out the door? Who has the healthiest work-life balance? That feels like Princess might already be gone.
Oh, okay.
She might have checked out.
Where's Princess? Gone.
She seems like she really has her life in order, to be honest with you, in a way that few characters on this show do. Also a candidate we should note for who might know the truth about Langdon, because she was the one who stumbled into the Robby Langdon conversation.
She didn't really understand what she was
I don't think so either.
At all. She was just sort of like, Robby lost his shit, and I didn't really understand why,
But she saw Robby be big mad. And look, she's just got her ear to the ground on basically everything.
I wouldn't underestimate Princess ever, not once in my life. She's either in radiology or she has taken her winnings and is like hit the casino or something like that. I don't know. But I hope she's enjoying herself.
I hope so too.
Yeah, Princess First One Home does sound pretty right to me as well. Maybe Donnie. On the Duke front, though, because you mentioned Buffy the Vampire Slayer, quick pause or skip ahead if you don't care. But Rob and I are huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer heads.
Yeah, we care.
And there's been big Buffy the Vampire Slayer news. The reboot has been canceled. You and I had sort of like near identical reactions to this. What was your reaction, Rob?
The way in which it happened, I found quite disappointing, especially the story from Sarah Michelle Gellar about how one of the executives involved, like, not only is not a fan of the original show, but bragged about never having finished it.
So that's like one phase. And then what hit today, we're recording this on a Wednesday. This morning, both Variety and The Ankler came out with like sort of like Hulu's response, which is like a hit job on back at Chloe Zhao. It's Chloe Zhao's fault. Anyway, point being, they cannot make it work.
I choose to believe it's the executives. I choose to believe there was like a George R.R. Martin style conversation at a dinner table. It's like, what do you know about Clem? How much? I'm going to give you the test.
Yeah.
How much do you really know about this show?
That's a great. Is that the benchmark? Like,
tell me about Clem. What's the proper currency for a vampire poker game? If you don't know, I don't want to know you.
It's kittens, Rob.
Of course it is.
I think I know. I was worried about this no matter what. So I think you and I both were like, maybe this is for the best that it not happen. And like people who worked really hard on it, like all of that, that's really tough. The young actress who thought she was going to be like the new Slayer, like all of that stuff is really, really tough.
Anytime you're trying to capture a tone that is 20, 25 years old is almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
Like, even if you literally just took the exact writing from a Buffy episode and tried to run it today, it just would not land in the way that it did.
That's been our sort of Buffy sidebar. Anything else you want to say about Buffy or Duke or Robby in the context of Duke?
I mean, sad that Jeff Kober will not be reprising either of his Buffy. I guess neither of them are really reprisable.
It's true.
But in the Buffyverse, maybe they could have been. So
I think a third role for Jeff Kober would have been in order if the Buffy reboot had gone forward. Okay, let's take a hard pivot to the ICE storyline. It's here.
It is.
The long-awaited. Do you want to just start with a quick living out with the Pitt as we head into this ICE storyline?
Kai, could you please do the honors?
Living out with the Pitt.
It's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Agents Carrera and Russo are here with this poor woman, Pranita, who just wants to let her daughter know what's going on with her. Agent Russo specifically, who stays masked the entire episode and is played by the tallest person I've ever seen.
He's quite tall.
Like, I think Peter Claffey of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms would look like small compared to him. Is this what you thought an ICE storyline would be? Is this what you wanted? How did you feel about it?
I'm glad that it came through in a more overt and adversarial way.
Right.
That it was not just like, oh, these Haitian parents got deported and now we're going to deal with the after effects. Yeah. Like, this is in the show's face. It's dealt with overtly within the plot of the episode.
Right.
And as far as the living out goes, Joe, I mean, we get the standard issue, Dana alerting everybody that no matter your status, of course you're entitled to emergency treatment.
They say it twice.
They make it very clear. Yeah. Dr. Bangs is on the beat the whole episode. Like, can't she make a phone call? Can't she do this? Like, trying to connect all the dots. I do think that this episode lived out like no episode of The Pitt has ever lived out before. And it's because of one specific thing.
What's that?
Robby chews this ICE guy out.
Yeah.
Reads him the riot act.
Right.
You need to get out of my ED. You're costing me patients. You're costing me nurses. And in, frankly, the most unbelievable turn of events in television history, the ICE guy is like, no problem.
Well, no problem. But then he like manhandles this woman who's got a torn rotator cuff or something like that.
It's true.
And then arrests Jesse.
It's also true.
Jesse got arrested by ICE.
That happened. Welcome to the resistance, Jesse.
Jesse, you were always my favorite.
But you're telling me this guy in that moment there'd be no pushback in that conversation?
But he also wanted to leave.
Oh, he did want to leave.
You know?
He wanted to leave urgently. That part is true.
You feel like he would have like arrested Robby for chewing him out?
I mean, there would at least be like a fight at least been a screaming match.
I think the way that Robby is positioned through all of this is so interesting because at first he's
I think
just
it's
like,
really
he's
smart.
just like, let's comply, let's
Yeah.
comply, let's get them out of here. I'm not happy, but let's get them out of here. The fact that people are just like pouring out of chairs, people are just exiting swiftly.
Yeah.
Because ICE is here.
They're waiting for 5 hours in the waiting room.
And they're like,
yeah,
fuck this. No. So Roxy has died and she's still in the room where she died. And Monica, who we've been enjoying, Monica, the woman who has like come in because she knows where all of the forms are kept.
Yes.
Is like, hey, should we move that body to the viewing room? And Robbie's like, no, we're going to leave it there, whatever. And she's like, should we? And then Dana snaps at her in a very like brusque way. Then later we see that Monica is like a little chummy with Officer Russo.
Oh, I didn't
He's
even
like,
notice
I'm
that.
just talking to Mrs. Patterson here, like blah, blah. Is Monica MAGA?
Wow.
And is there some sort of cut scene? Because like we get a scene where Dana's like, they raided Joe's in Green Tree. And I did look up Green Tree, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh that is kind of like a little bit of a blue dot surrounded by, it's, in a lot of, as are a lot of places in Allegheny County, like kind of close, but this one has gone Democrat. And then like a lot of the places around it have gone Republican. I was just curious why they called out Green Tree specifically. I was sort of like, it's a largely white, seemingly quite like somewhat affluent Democratic suburb. And so they like ICE raided a restaurant in this area. She says that and Monica's like, oh, I love that place. But I was just wondering, I'm curious, I don't know the answer to this. If there's like a cut scene where Monica says something like pro-ICE or like,
damn,
and then, because I was just curious why Dana snapped at her so aggressively, seemingly out of like nowhere when she and Monica have been so chummy, for a few episodes now.
It's a great point. I don't know why that reaction would track within the course of this episode.
Right.
They haven't really said anything that would have like set Dana off to this point.
Right.
So yeah, I can't really make heads or tails of it.
But Monica being like, he's just like leaning across the counter, like having a kiki with Monica at the front counter. And I'm
That's
just
wild.
sort of like, Monica, lady. But listen, it can't be all living out with the Pitt all the time. There's some MAGA-ing happening in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So
I like and I appreciate that executive producer Noah Wiley and Robby by proxy is not necessarily the person to deliver it. And I really appreciate where Robby is positioned in this episode, which is his stance, as you said, is kind of like, let's comply, let's get through this.
Right.
And his opposition is not preachy and soapboxy. It's like, this is my ED and you were getting in my way of treating patients. It's like, it's almost more ego than it is principle.
Yeah, that's interesting. But like, so what we had heard, and I'm sure there will be plenty of articles, interviews done about this. We were recording this, before the episode comes out. So I'm sure there will be, as much as there was buzz about it before it happened, I'm sure there will be Noah Wiley interviews or John Wells interviews or whatever talking about how they want to thread the needle on this. But a lot of the buzz before this episode hit was that they were told by the network to slightly both sides this storyline. Do you feel like they did that in any way? I'm not saying they should have. I was just sort of like, do you think Robby not being like, get the fuck out of my ED from the very beginning, but like opening with, hey, let's just move forward, is that their version of sort of like kind of both sidesing it?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's probably the closest you're going to get. I also think you could be right in that things could have been cut or trimmed out to begin with. I also think having one character in a mask the whole time gives you a lot of ability to ADR around an entire plot line if you wanted to.
Very true.
Many of these conversations could have gone quite differently in the original cut. I have no idea.
We know from interviews that they shoot a lot of footage for the Pitt episodes and then sort of hem it back.
Completely.
So, there's plenty of stuff that could have been cut out of this episode.
I mean, clearly Nurse Jesse is arrested. We don't know if we'll see him for the rest of the season.
It's 5:00.
Yeah.
The lawyer, now it's 6:00. The lawyers are tied up with the cyber attack. Like, are we going to see, and we're not leaving the ED to go like find Jesse.
No.
Something I thought was interesting is that Javadi filmed it. And Javadi, who has a social media presence.
Dr. J herself.
Right. So is Dr. J going to post about...
Dr. Justice?
Ooh.
nice little pivot for Javadi.
Kai, can we hear that jingle one more time, please?
Living out with the Pitt.
Dr. Justice.
One more dangling thing. I don't know if it'll come back or not, but of all of the patients who have fled the ED as a result of ICE being there, we also get mentioned like some of the staff and nurses, even those with like accepted status, have fled as well, just out of, safety, basically. But Mrs. Torres, who Samira is looking after, has like a blood clot in her leg that could be a life-changing or life-threatening ailment.
Well, like what Samira says is like, it's not an issue if we take, she's
if
like,
you do it right now.
Yeah, super easy to take care of.
Yes.
Because you're here. But, I mean, that calf looked crazy.
It looked really bad.
Yeah.
And if 3 hours from now, Miss Torres gets like rolled in unconscious, that would be such a bummer, but an understandable like after effect of this kind of storyline.
That leaves us with a cliffhanger, which is Emma and the golf douche. This dude comes in. They had to, the EMTs had to sedate him just to like, get him in there. I don't know if I want to call him a friend. He's
a bro.
His shitty golfing buddy who doesn't know anything about his life is like, this guy sucks, but his golf game certainly sucks.
He did. The wide-eyed like nod from Emma as he's talking about what he shot today. Yeah. Incredible.
But I'll be back in a couple hours to check in on him, but maybe he won't.
Is this guy recognizable to you?
Oh, is he recognizable to you?
Oh, not as an actor. I just mean as
a person?
just in the world of male friendship. Oh, I know so many of these guys.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well,
tell me more.
I mean, you already alluded to the idea that like you spend an incredible amount of time participating in hobbies with people, and some of them it's like, No. We know nothing about each other.
This is okay. So like I know that you play tennis,
Sure.
you do pick up basketball, right? So you do like sportsman-like activities with people who you might not know anything about. But if they wound up in the ED, from Mahoney,
I would.
You would be like, I'll figure out who their family is.
Yes.
And I'll wait here with them until their family arrives or something like that. You're not like strolling out of the room. I'll be back in a couple hours, maybe. So that's different.
That's different, but would I expect them to? I think I would be surprised if they did.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's levels. There's the people who you're like actual friends with or friendly with. That's a different thing. But then there's just people who I see you for an hour or two every week and we have no real relationship, but you're going to come and maybe, bop out for a little bit and come back in a few hours. Honestly, that's more than I would expect of a golf bro in these circumstances.
Okay. Tough. See, I mean, like I thought you had a like stronger community inside of your extracurricular activities.
Joe, there are circles. There's the strong community, and then we're going outward. These don't seem like the best of friends.
Okay. If you had like a peripheral.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a third circle at minimum friend.
But I know that might be true. Well, I don't know, but I don't understand your tennis world. I'm trying to. I feel like I understand your pickup basketball world.
Do you?
No, but like better. But like if you're booking, like if you're on a golf course with someone, doesn't that feel like someone you're in, you have to like book the time on the course together, right?
You do.
And like you're in the cart, like it just feels like.
And these aren't like two twosomes who got grouped together in a cart. Like these are people who actually golf together on a regular basis.
Work together or like are, business associates or something like that. The fact that he's like a douche and doesn't give a shit about him or know anything about him, I believe. But I just think golfing lends itself to a bit more emotional intimacy inside of that space.
You would be surprised.
Okay, probably.
I'd be very surprised.
But Emma's in a stranglehold as the episode concludes.
I mean, a full-on chokehold.
Yeah.
I fully believe that this kind of thing probably does happen from time to time. It felt quite dramatic in a way, like a little overly dramatic.
Oftentimes the Pitt cliffhangers are.
They are. But I thought this one, and maybe it's just because there's like imminent physical violence. It's like, it's very scary what is happening to Emma.
Absolutely.
I'm terrified about it. This was one where it's like, I really need to see what happens in the next episode immediately.
Right.
So from that perspective, effective. But it's also just like, maybe it's just, it's at the end of a long Pitt day and it's like, now people are in fucking chokeholds out here? Like, what is happening?
It's 6 o'clock, Rob.
It is 6 o'clock. I do want to talk quickly about Roxy.
Of course,
because she does pass in this episode, as we talked about.
Yeah.
I like that we don't know if her older son ever got the chance to say goodbye or if he wanted to. I kind of like that that's hanging in the air.
Yeah.
I also want to call out, Joe, Jake Kring Schreifels did a freelance piece for us at theringer.com called The Pitt as Told by Its Patients.
Oh, cool.
In which he interviewed a bunch of our like background actors that we've been praising throughout the season. These patients who've been coming through for, single or 3 or 4 episode arcs sometimes. In particular, Brittany Allen, who plays Roxy.
Yeah.
I liked her interview a lot. She was talking about, for one, just the exhaustive, and I mean that in multiple senses, level of research that she did to kind of get in the head of somebody who would be dealing with this much pain. But also how being on the Pitt set, which you mentioned earlier, they shoot so much. There's so much going on. There's so many people buzzing around all the time.
Right.
Feels to some of these actors who are coming in as on guest starring roles like overwhelming in and of itself. And so there's something kind of, I think, transportive based on these interviews about parachuting in and trying to tap into this really deep emotional place. And there is so much happening around you that it feels as if you've been, wheeled into an ED.
Shabana Aziz, who plays Victoria Javadi, like the look she gives Robby, the silent look she gives Robby inside of that, when he goes over, puts his hand on Roxy's husband's shoulder, and then the glisten of the tear in her eye. She's not full on crying. She looks so young and just, and Robby sort of watching in real time someone lose another layer of their innocence, inside of an already tough day for Victoria because she already had this oversight happen and stuff like that. And so it's just like, everyone's having a tough day, man. This 4th of July sucks.
It's not good.
No.
But you're right that the glistening work across the board has just been incredible this season. Noah Wiley, too.
Oh, he's the king of glisten.
It's every conversation he has, he's on the verge.
Tears, yeah.
But yeah, Javadi's been in that place for a couple episodes now. I think she's done a really wonderful job.
Anything else you want to mention?
I have one good thing, one bad thing. We talked about the xylazine wound that Kiki has across the street.
And it grosses.
Absolutely disgusting.
Get gnarly.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
The second most gnarly thing for me, and this is a regular appearance on the Pitt, the rib spreader.
Oh, yeah.
God, do I hate the rib spreader. I understand its necessity.
Right.
But every time it comes out, I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
You're like, it's not supposed to go that way. We're not supposed to stretch like that.
If I really want to dig deep, I think this is part of why sometimes if I see people with like very intrusive gauges in their ears, I have like a visceral reaction to it. No offense if you were one of these people, but it's like,
Rob is casting aspersions on the furry community and now also the piercing enthusiast.
Well, only if you're a basic furry.
Okay.
But if you have gauges, just know if they are a certain size, I am like a little upset about the way that your ear is contorting. I don't like visible ear holes. I don't like ribs being spread. I don't like any of that stuff.
Okay, what's your good?
Let's go back to Javadi for a second.
Okay.
Just an incredible moment from Robby. Javadi, why don't you glove up and show Dr. Shamsi that you belong in the ED?
Yeah, very good.
Cue fist pump from me on the couch. Let's fucking go.
Thanks, Dad.
work dad showing up. Manual massaging of the heart. Get that thing pumping again. Javadi shows up. And we talked earlier about, Ogilvy freezing in those moments when he is kind of like, learning human empathy for the first time in this season.
What is this?
What is this?
What is this emotion?
His heart grew 3 sizes in this hour.
Yeah.
But Javadi is the one who picks up all the slack in that conversation.
She does.
Ogilvy, I do want to give appropriate credit, owns the fact that this was his problem to begin with, but it's Javadi who's like helping to save the day.
And like fucking Dr. Shamsi, who's like, was this you?
Come on.
How unuseful, to put it mildly. Good episode of The Pitt.
I rather enjoyed it.
A lot.
And only going to be more.
I'll be very curious to see how people respond to the ICE storyline. But I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it, but I thought it was well done. We'll be back for the final hour of this shift. We will see. Email us, drsidebangs@gmail.com, if you have a different theory as to who goes home first from this shift. If Princess is already gone, what is she doing with her money? Any other prompts you want to give our listeners?
In theory, McKay's supposed to be getting ready for a date soon.
9 o'clock? I feel like she said 9 o'clock.
It is a 9 o'clock date, but like she's got to get home, get cleaned up. She's who knows what's going on with her kid today.
You think that hoodie is not a date hoodie?
Maybe it is.
Okay.
I don't want to make presumptions. Clearly, it worked for him in the first place. He was on board.
He loved it.
Maybe you just show up.
Yeah, you show up in the hoodie that
chart
brought
for 3 hours, go straight to the date.
Exactly. Who's last to leave?
It's probably Robby.
Yeah.
He's not getting on that motorcycle.
I would be surprised at this point. Thank you to Kai Grady. Thank you to everyone else here in the Sycamore Studios who helped us here today. We will be back with Love Story. We'll see you then. Bye.